Welcome back to the channel. Jubilee video. Shout out. And they're debating politics. Roundtable. Let's dive right into it. The first topic, and I have it 1.25 speed for anybody who doesn't know, is regarding the shutdown. So let's dive into it. Help me get to 800 subscribers. And we're going to keep on doing our thing. We're going to keep on moving. Shout out.
That we're trying to give healthcare to illegal immigrants.
Well, I mean,
we're only trying to extend healthcare to those who have
who are non.
Don't want to negotiate. If you compare to when Biden was in office for the first 2 years, they also had a trifecta. They negotiated with Republicans. They even made concessions on social spending and defense spending. So if Republicans are going to do this in bad faith and they're going to politicize it and they're not going to negotiate, then they can't just blame Democrats with like no substance to the argument.
Wait, so why do you think it's bad faith? If we got all the Republicans voted yes to continuing resolution and
a partisan continuing resolution where they did not negotiate with Democrats, which they're supposed to negotiate, right?
It's also bad faith because they're claiming that the government shutdown is caused by a desire to give healthcare and Medicaid to illegal
non-citizens.
Not to non-citizens, to illegal immigrants.
Well, Section 71109
Can I finish
specifically.
my sentence?
Ahead,
Thank you so much. But what the serious consideration is what Adam said, which is about PTC, which is about tax credits for American citizens. That's 24 million U.S. citizens whose health care could potentially be taken away without this tax credit. That's a serious concern.
Sure, but when it comes to alien eligibility, which is also part of what we're talking about, Section 71109 specifically mentions eligibility for non-citizens, and not even just permanent alien residents, but people that are asylees. We have people who happen to just get protected status and are able to get out of it.
It's only
sure,
legal
but
status.
But those are people that seek asylum. Anybody can seek asylum.
It's bad faith to claim that.
Not anybody can seek asylum. That's not true.
For asylum.
Yeah,
Sure,
it's bad faith to claim that an illegal immigrant, that we're trying to give healthcare to illegal immigrants.
Well, I mean,
we're only trying to extend healthcare to those who have
who are non-citizens.
Let me verify what I meant. Not anybody can get asylum. Anybody can apply for asylum, but a lot of people are rejected. The majority of people are rejected.
Yeah,
We
but
want
they're
to prioritize
legally
Americans.
here.
That's America first, prioritizing Americans.
So if you want to prioritize Americans, why would you vote against?
The grand majority of it still, when it comes to Medicaid, is still for Americans, not non-Americans. And just to be very clear about what he's talking about, the issue that he's referring to is not a stipulation put in place to give illegal immigrants free care. That's not why it's there. The idea of it being there is that under emergencies, the program is there to help anybody who's in need. So it's caught more of like a blanket notion that people who are suffering in the United States can get a semblance of care that they need under extreme circumstance, unless we want people just like bloody and dying or super sick and just want them, hey, just die. It doesn't, you're not American, just die. You're in our, location, you're in our country, but I don't care about you, so just die. And that's kind of a terrible way to think about it. And I get it. MAGA doesn't like immigrants. They don't like illegal immigrants or whatever. But at the very least, for the majority of MAGA who are Christian, I would assume that one of the core principles behind Christianity is love thy neighbor. And for people who are suffering, that's a big thing behind who Jesus Christ is to help those who are suffering, which is why he sacrificed himself for everybody to save us from sin. At the very least, you should understand why something like this would be necessary to just help those unfortunate. But I do want to take a look at that provision real quick to get a more clear understanding for the people who don't trust my words for it, right?
And by the way, those people who are asylees,
it?
it's not like your immigration case is over.
Oh, sorry. Give me a second. So when it comes down to what this means, I found this source via congress.gov. I couldn't find the specific provision. I found like a lot of articles and documents talking about referencing 71109, but this is the best I could find in terms of a actual definition of what he's referring to. So qualified and non-qualified aliens in general, with respect to the applicant immigration status, non-citizen eligibility for most federal public benefits, including Medicaid and CHIP, is governed by the term qualified alien, which was created in the PRWORA as amended. Qualified aliens include lawful permanent residents, refugees, aliens granted parole for at least 1 year, aliens granted asylum or related relief, certain abused spouses and children, Cuban Haitian entrants, and citizens of the freely associated states, FAS, residing in the U.S. states and territories. For more, let's skip past that. And then certain victims of human trafficking, Iraqi and Afghan special immigrant, and certain Afghan and Ukrainian parolees are not necessarily qualified aliens, but are treated like refugees for purposes of federal public benefits. Qualified aliens who are otherwise eligible may be covered by Medicaid and CHIP with certain specified restrictions discussed below. Non-immigrants, those with temporary protected status, short-term parolees, those granted parole for less than 1 year, asylum applicants, those granted deferred action for childhood arrivals, DACA, unauthorized immigrants, and various other classes of non-citizens granted temporary permission to remain in the United States are non-qualified aliens. Individuals with these statuses are generally barred from Medicaid and CHIP with 3 exceptions. So let's look at those exceptions real quick. No, I want to look at the, here we go. 3 exceptions allow non-qualified aliens to be eligible for Medicaid and CHIP. Emergency Medicaid, so that's the first one. Under emergency Medicaid, and 8 USC states are required to provide limited Medicaid services for the treatment of an emergency medical condition for aliens who meet Medicaid's other eligibility requirements, regardless of their immigration status or lack of immigration status. For pregnant women, emergency Medicaid includes services covered under the state plan. So emergency Medicaid, I already explained that before. That should make a lot of sense to the average person. Second provision, from conception to end of pregnancy option. In 2002, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services promulgated regulations to revise the definition of child for the purposes of the CHIP program to include fetuses. This change allows states to provide CHIP coverage to children from conception to the end of pregnancy. States use this option to provide prenatal care services to pregnant women regardless of their age or immigration status. So these are babies, before, like, fetuses. You know, I hear all the time how MAGA cares about being pro-choice. You should care about this too, right? Hopefully there's some consistency there. And then the last thing, Medicaid and CHIP coverage of lawfully residing children and pregnant women. The state's Children's Health Insurance Program Reauthorization Act of 2009 option allows states to provide Medicaid and CHIP coverage to certain lawfully residing children and or pregnant women who would otherwise be eligible for coverage through these programs within the 5-year bar when certain conditions are met. So children of DACA, pregnant women, all that makes sense. So is there a provision in there that's just willy-nilly giving non-qualified, unauthorized immigrants Medicaid? Nope, that's just not true. Unless you really just don't care about them as human beings, that even when they're suffering, super sick, even if it's children, even if it's pregnant women, even if it's a fetus, that even those people don't deserve care if they're in the United States, then I just don't think you have any compassion for your fellow human being, and I think you're a fake Christian. So that's just my thing. So people like him, basically, with his whack ass fro. All right, let's continue. All right, we are back.
Illegal immigrants
But
necessarily.
nobody's
at all.
funding illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
That's why it's bad
The
faith.
argument that it's
Seven.
undocumented people are just non-citizens, because I feel like you're saying watching
aliens.
the Republican Party's
Well, the thing is when it gets passed down to the state level, they do sometimes actually choose to give Medicaid to illegal immigrants.
Okay, we're talking about
That's
federal
just-
dollars, right?
Yeah, he's just yapping at this point. He's not living in reality. His MAGA inner circle of propaganda and narratives are doing this brother proud. They're also telling him how to pick his hair as well.
Well, Medicaid is federal and state funded as well.
Right, but the
which is
federal
what we
dollars,
don't
the federal
understand.
dollars.
Federal.
have to pay for
Guys,
insurance.
the issue here is that what the Republicans are trying to do is prevent the indirect loophole. That's what 71109 is. It's preventing this indirect loop. Like, you're right that we have a 1996, I forgot, it's called like the Work Reconciliation Act or something that prevents illegal immigrants from getting Medicaid funding aside from emergencies. So, you have like obviously like labor or, prenatal care, stuff like that. That's like there's an exception to that. Yeah, stabilizing care.
Okay, now we're telling some truth. Let's have a real conversation now. Okay, these are factual things now. Come on.
But with this, I don't understand what the problem is with. You guys are familiar with the subsection that was added to 71109 in the Big Beautiful Bill, right? It's just closing this loophole that's indirectly being used to fund
There's no
illegal immigrant
loophole,
healthcare. You see
but
it here in
continue.
California. The CBO projected You know what I'm talking about, though. The CBO projected
The
1.2
issue is that you're
billion.
conflating two things and you're ignoring a completely other aspect of this, which is about healthcare for U.S. citizens through a tax credit. That is part of the
For that.
BBL.
There's for that for
Yeah, that's I don't know what's the point of bringing up all this immigration stuff. The immigration stuff that Mega is complaining about is a non-issue. It's not a big deal. It doesn't happen. It's all narratives. It's all propaganda. The thing that Democrats are running on, which is what you have to contend with, is the idea that the MAGA does not want to lower the premiums and want to change up how the healthcare is run, because a lot of healthcare premiums and a lot of healthcare prices will be going up because of the big beautiful bill. So the reason why they're doing what they're doing is to ensure that doesn't happen. That's not an issue, that they're helping the people deal with this kind of healthcare crisis, so to speak. So your counterpoint has to address that issue in particular.
for the subsidy. The Republicans have said yes to the
No,
subsidy.
they're not. In the big beautiful law, those same tax credits that are providing subsidies for insurance coverages are set to expire in 2025. Democrats are trying.
Wait, he said Republicans agree to the healthcare subsidies? Is that true? It might be. Let me fact check that real quick. So this is an article that I found really quick using thehill.com. And this talks about Republicans and the Obamacare subsidies. And this was made October 21st, so a few days ago. A group of frontline House Republicans on Tuesday called on Speaker Mike Johnson to immediately address the expiring enhanced Obamacare tax credits once the government shutdown ends. Led by Reps Jeff Van Drew from New Jersey and Jeff Kiggins from Virginia, 13 lawmakers told Johnson that millions of their constituents would face a massive spike in health premiums without an extension of the subsidies before their expiration at the end of the year. So some Republicans are, about like 15 is what it looks like here. Here's a quote about saving healthcare. They rejected the Democratic demand that a tax credit extension be tied to the government shutdown and urged Johnson to chart a conservative path that protects worker families in our districts across the country once the government reopens. While the moderate Republicans push for changes to the tax credits, many hardline conservatives remain outright opposed to any extension at all, a path that the Republican pollsters and allies of President Trump would be a mistake heading into the midterm elections. The letter from moderates shows some growing GOP anxiety over the seeming lack of public plan for leadership to extend the subsidies. So there's a disconnect between moderate Republicans and more far-right MAGA in terms of extending it. So it's not a wholesale thing. I don't know if he's referring to moderate Republicans, because the whole Republican Party does not seem like they're on board with that. So I think he's just making that shit up. Most Americans who purchase health insurance through Affordable Care Act plans are eligible for subsidies to make their premiums more affordable. Congress made the subsidies more generous during the pandemic, but unless Congress extends them again, they are set to revert to their original lower levels. Consumers with 2026 ACA marketplace plans are already seeing substantial higher premiums as state and federal window shopping allows people to see the cost of their plans ahead of the November 1st start of open enrollment. Insurers are anticipating the enhanced subsidies will expire and our prices, blah, blah, blah. Premium payments. The government has been shut down for 21 days. There's no end in sight. So, okay. Kiggins, the main sponsor for a bill to extend the subsidies for a year, is 28 bipartisan co-sponsors equally divided between the two parties. Has been out of session for a month, and Johnson it won't bring members back until Democrats vote to reopen the government. So it seems like there's a split between Republicans. All of the Democrats basically are on board, split between the Republicans. So just had to clear that air. He made it seem like all of the Republicans already said, "Oh yeah, let's do that," and that's just not true. Let's continue.
Trying to extend.
The Republicans want to extend it. They just want to close the contingency.
they
If they
don't.
really cared about
Yes, they do.
if
Yes,
they
they
really
do.
cared about just like a substantive change, they would negotiate. They're not negotiating. They don't even hide that they're not negotiating.
The only-
Oval Office meeting was just a photo op for Trump.
The only thing they changed in the big beautiful bill, it was Kevin Kiley's. I think he called it no.
Can you just address that point though?
Which point?
You're acting like there's some like substantive reason they want to do this, and they should negotiate with Democrats. They've had months to do that. It's their
What is
job.
the-
And when Democrats had the presidency, the House, and the Senate, they negotiated with the minority party, the Republicans, and they made concessions on defense spending and on social spending. Because when you're the majority party, as Trump said himself in 2013, it's on the president to bring people together.
Do you guys agree that should illegal immigrants have health care? Yes or no? Subsidized federal?
No.
health-
No one's
Sure.
arguing
No,
for that.
it's not anyone. Yeah, no, one's
No one
pushing
ever
for
wanted
So
that.
let me ask you, what is the problem with the
Illegal immigrants don't have health care. That's not a thing.
section that was added like
For asylees and people that have convictions
for
against
legal
torture and withholding of
immigrants.
removal, and like, what are you talking about?
what do you mean? It's
That's the
literally
issue.
targets
Illegal immigrants should not have health care. Legal immigrants should. Green card
Legal-
holders,
and legal
asylum seekers
immigrants
who
do have
have been
healthcare.
granted. No, they don't.
Under-
That's what
under
you're
our
Health
talking
insurance, healthcare, everyone, if they go to an
Sure,
ER,
sure, sure,
legally
sure.
they have to be
Yes.
provided stabilized
Obviously,
care.
that's mental health.
Yes,
We're talking
we're
about
talking about
Medicaid.
mental. Yes, thank you.
Medicaid and the ACA. And the ACA, I mean, Raphael Warnock from Georgia just showed that the average person making 65.
Are they trying to? He's saying that. Well, one side is trying. Oh, there we have the same mics. Interesting. One side is trying to make the claim that they're trying to close a loophole, some imaginary loophole that exists. And it seems like, I guess I could fact check this too, but I think it's pretty clear based off the context of the conversation, is that there is an underlying understanding that they're trying to close any immigrant status from getting Medicaid care. The loophole that the only people who get Medicaid care, as I showed, are qualified immigrants. Like those are the only people, and these are actual immigrants that went through the process. Unauthorized immigrants do not have health care. That's just not a thing. That's just a fake issue. So I'm just trying to figure out exactly what loophole he's talking about.
$1,000 a year is about to see their premiums go from $300 a month to $960 a month.
He said 4,000 actually, but that's fine.
I mean, no, it's the
main
Anthem,
point-
the Anthem health plans. You can Google this
He
again.
specifically
300 to
said
960.
4,000. But again,
screenshots out there.
if you want to get this through and end the government shutdown, just agree that under Section
negotiate.
71109, we are not going to fund people under protected status.
Sounds like something-
asylees. That sounds
No,
very
you should.
anti-American first.
Why is
No, I'm
that
sorry.
anti? Okay, but if you want to talk about anti-American.
You're not going to fund people with protected status? So people who are here for protected status can't get health care? Asylees can't get health care? Refugees can't get health care? Why? Like, what is the issue with them getting health care? They came here through a legal process. Why? I just don't understand that. At this point, it's not about illegal immigrants anymore. At this point, I mean, we knew this. And it's very disappointing seeing a person of color saying this. But this type of like nationalist racism is just disgusting. So you're telling me if a guy did all his paperwork, did all the legalese of coming into the country through refugee status or temporary status. Maybe he's escaping from Haiti because of the gang wars, or maybe he's escaping from Afghanistan because one of the terrorist organizations wants to kill him and his family. He comes to America. He's here in America, and he's like, okay, I got to get a job and all that stuff, but I need health care for my family. I don't have a lot of money, so I'm going to apply for Medicaid. His solution, this dude, let me show you his face. Let me show you this dude, these dudes right here. Their solution is, I don't give a fuck where you came from. Fuck you. I don't care if you're suffering. I don't care who you are. I don't care if your family's suffering. You don't deserve anything because you weren't born here. Yeah, your life might be harder. Yeah, you might be suffering. Yeah, you might be dealing with stuff that I could only imagine of dealing with. And yes, I'm a fake Christian who only believes in love thy neighbor and taking care of the suffering only when I feel like it. In reality, I don't care about any of that. I'm taking away all your provisions. That's what MAGA is trying to do right now. This idea that there's a loophole, there's not a loophole. You just don't want to help people. You're just a bad person.
Sounds like
asylees. That sounds
No,
very
you should.
anti-American first.
Why is
No, I'm
that
sorry.
anti? Okay, but if you
Not
want to talk
rule of
about
law.
anti-American first, why would you not protect the funded?
How is this anti-American just because we're helping people who came into the country? This is so pathetic, man. These people do not know how to reasonably engage in a conversation that's like, oh, if I'm not helping every single person that's born here, anytime I'm helping anybody else, it's anti-American. It's such a low brain, low effort, simple-minded way of understanding society. You're just lucky your parents were born here, buddy. That's the only difference.
Tax credit through the PTC,
Or-
through the
and-
Affordable Care Act.
Sure, but we have to
Why
all
would
agree.
you not?
They do, like you already said.
They
we
already
do
have
agree.
that in
We
there.
do agree.
The subsidy is.
Then why did they
We're
set
not
it
going to spend 70. We're not going to
Then
spend.
why did they set it to expire in the big beautiful law?
It
always-
didn't
things
set it to
always
expire.
expire.
Yes,
set
they
to this,
did.
it was set to December.
They changed it,
It was
so it was set to expire in
it was
2025.
set to
That was a
expire.
conscious change that was made in the
It
big
was-
beautiful law.
That's not
a lot
true.
of
That wasn't a
things-
change that was made in the law. It was set to expire December of this year, regardless.
Yeah, they were
Why
going
did they renew it? Democrats would have renewed it.
Yeah, we can renew it.
Sure. So it seems like what we talked about is there's just an impasse here. I think the main issue is that Republicans don't want to negotiate. You guys are bringing up issues with who is eligible. Those are things that would.
I think it would have ended regardless, but I don't think there's any evidence that MAGA wanted to extend it at all. And if they are making that claim, I just think they're lying. And I think we all know that they never intended to extend it at all.
Come up in a negotiation. So that just seems like an obvious answer here, but it seems like we're not going to find much agreement on this topic.
How can you celebrate 50 years of imagination?
I have to get YouTube Premium again, bro. I swear to God. I swear to God.
Notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay?
You got there.
Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol. During pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good.
Trump's claim that Tylenol is linked to autism is dangerously irresponsible and not backed by science.
So there was a Harvard.
It is not backed by science. Oh, is this guy about to make? Oh, is this guy about to say something wrong? Oh, all right, here we go.
A study that was done on this. It was authored by Andrea Beccarelli, and it found that when they looked over 46 studies, and this is a meta-analysis.
You know what I should do? I should start doing more timestamps. I think a lot of us. I've come to understand that I like timestamps as well. I'm not gonna lie. Timestamps really help me kind of just get through stuff. So let me get the timestamp down here. I'm gonna become timestamp merchants moving forward. What was that? A government shutdown. Government shutdown debate. And then this one's Tylenol. Oh my goodness. Are we really having a Tylenol debate? Tylenol? I don't know how you can argue. Like MAGA just be anything Trump says, they'll just argue. It's just we just don't live in reality anymore. Okay, let's hear them out.
So it encompasses multiple different studies, also the sibling studies that I know are going to for sure are going to be mentioned here under rigorous review. And they found that there was a link to autism. They also went on to say that you should try to use the.
Did they say there was a link to autism? I'd have to hold on. What am I trying to say? Did they say it was a correlation to autism, or did they say there was a causation to autism? Those are very different things. Just because there's a link just because they're correlated doesn't mean that one causes the other. There's a difference between correlation and causation. If I have to look it up in the dictionary for you guys, let me know.
Lowest possible dose, shortest duration under medical guidance. And again, it includes.
Yeah, crazy. Yes, use the dosage under medical guidance. Oh my God, that's such a crazy concept. OMG, OMG. Use the fucking dosage directed to you. Yes, everybody agrees to that.
NDDs, right? It includes OCD, ADHD, obviously autism, or any other neurological disorders.
Wait.
Lowest. That was done on this. It was authored by Andrea Beccarelli, and it found that when they looked over 46 studies, and this is a meta-analysis, so it encompasses multiple different studies, also the sibling studies that I know science. So there was a Harvard study that was done on this. It was authored by Andrea Beccarelli, and it found that when they looked over 46 studies, and this is a meta-analysis, so it encompasses multiple different studies, also the sibling studies that I know are going to for sure are going to be mentioned here under rigorous review, and they found that there was a link to autism. They
All right, give me a second. Let me find this study.
also went on to say that you should try to.
I don't think I'm gonna read this long because this is such a nothing burger that MAGA just wants to anything Donald Trump says they will just argue because they have no will of their own. They're all just bots. So this is such a surface level easy thing to debunk, non-issue that I don't want to waste my time, but I'm gonna let them finish and I want to go into something a little bit more substantive. But I have all the sources. We'll go into it depending on what he says.
Use the lowest So it encompasses multiple different studies, also the sibling studies that I know are going to for sure are going to be mentioned here under rigorous review, and they found that there was a link to autism. They also went on to say that you should try to use the lowest possible dose, shortest duration under medical guidance. And again, it includes NDDs, right? It includes OCD, ADHD, obviously autism, or any other neurological disorder that may be there. Again, I think it's really silly that a lot of people are going around trying to just dump Tylenol when they're pregnant. It's irresponsible. But is it linked? Yes, that's what the evidence shows.
Okay, so it seems
Okay, so he's very careful with his words. He just says, "Is it linked?" Yes. Linked to autism, dangerous, irresponsible. But we know that what RFK did is not in reference to whether or not it's linked. It's whether or not they are trying to allude to the fact that there's a causal link, which is very different. I'll let them say what they got to say. I think it should be a pretty easy response.
seems like we are kind of sane washing what Trump said. So we went from Trump saying taking Tylenol and then he buffers and he goes, not good. That's different from saying that data shows that there's an association. I mean, we all know correlation is not causal.
Oh, he's cooking. See, I don't have to say anything. That guy, I don't have to say anything. He's cooking. He got it. I don't got to say nothing. Go ahead,
and in that same Harvard study you mentioned, at the end it says further research is needed to prove a causal link. And again, when you look at things like
just in case you guys, oh, this guy's on top of it. You love to see when people are prepared. Here's the quote right here. Further research is needed to confirm the association, determine causality based on existing evidence. I believe that caution during presidency, especially heavy or prolonged use, is warranted. Yes, caution for sure. When you're using a lot of like drugs and like that, especially when you're pregnant, you definitely should be cautious. But there's no evidence of a causal link. And just because this is exactly what he's referring to, the Harvard thing. So glad we're on the same page.
Like the sibling study, the reason that sibling study is so important, it's the largest of its kind, is you have similar environments, similar genetics, but you have one sibling where the mother took Tylenol before and one where you didn't. Just by the way, everyone should know this. Anytime a doctor is talking to a pregnant woman, with every medication, he already says, or she already says, use it sparingly, use with caution. That is already the precedent. That is very different from Trump and RFK.
Oh my God, Cook, my boy. You know exactly what to say. No notes. I got nothing to say. He got it.
Jr., neither of whom have ever went to medical school, coming out and giving a statement with the weight of the federal government behind them, saying that taking Tylenol is not good. So defend what they said, not some sane wash version.
I'll defend what they said. They said there was an association with it, that there was a positive association.
No positive association. Okay. Well, I just feel like this is such a nothing burger. This is such a nothing burger. I'm about to skip this. This is such a stupid.
He literally said it in the clip. He said there's a positive association.
And then he said
that it's not good.
He also said
kind of a leap.
Okay.
And he's referencing specifically their pregnant woman.
It's implied.
Said specifically not just that there is no causal link or that we need to find a causal link. They said a stronger causal link. Because there is already a causal link there, or else they wouldn't have reached the conclusion that they actually have reached.
So
just
hold on.
There's no causal link. What is the nonsense? Okay, this is such a nothing thing. This is such a stupid fucking argument on MAGA's side that I just gotta skip. They got nothing here. They really don't. So let me move on to something else. Hey man, I don't really do drugs. Sometimes I take Tylenol when I have a headache, but like obviously I also never get pregnant. Well, yeah, I mean, of course you gotta use these sparingly. Come on, gents. How do we feel about the NBA so far? We feeling good? Is your favorite team win the first game? My favorite team didn't, but Luka Doncic went amazing. He did some good stuff. All right, let's. This is such a nothing burger. They actually spent time talking about this bullshit. How can they argue? Like how do they actually have an argument here? I have a feeling that they're just arguing semantics. I just don't know what your argument would be. I guess I could see it, but it's so stupid. My brain will hurt if I listen to stupidity that long. All right, let's go.
Million in Florida and 26 million in Philly.
It's not like any woman who's thinking about taking acetaminophen is gonna. It's not like any woman who's thinking.
Oh, what the fuck? I went all the way back.
Injury or prescription episode. And now let's get back to the video.
Agitators. Portland is burning to the ground. You have agitators, insurrectionists. All you have to do is look at the television, turn on your television, read your newspapers. It's burning to the ground. The governor, the mayor, the politicians are petrified for their lives.
Okay.
I just love the way he says things. Portland is currently a war zone and needs the National Guard to intervene.
Okay, but
I mean, a Trump-appointed judge, Judge Immergut, just said a couple days ago that the president's determination is, quote, not tethered to reality. There is no real reason here to not just, I mean, if the state's governor wants to call in the National Guard, that's one thing. This is Trump trying to circumvent the state's governor to federalize the National Guard and send them in. And what it actually is part of a broader trend and a movement towards authoritarianism in this country.
Can I ask a quick question? What is the violent rate per capita in, Portland right now?
if the argument is going to be based off violence, and there's a difference between, violence in a state or violence in a city that is taking place versus a war zone. Those are completely different notions. If you want to decrease violence in an area, okay. But if we start playing this game of anytime there's a high violent rate, that we should send the National Guard, and at that point, it's going to get very wicked. And then every city that has a above XYZ number of violence should have the National Guard in there. And then we're basically militarizing the entire country with the military. And then who to say that the person in charge of the military won't use that same military at his own behest? It's just a very dangerous notion, which every fascist, dictatorial, authoritarian government has done. And this is just the same type of procedure for the United States. It's just not. I'm allowing to finish this argument, but this is dangerous territory.
I have the crime stats memorized, but I do know that violent crime is down.
Can you guess?
Were you talking about homicides or like robberies?
Just violent crime in general per capita.
I couldn't tell you.
Just guess.
I mean, I'm not going to guess.
720 out of 100.
And you know that's going down, right?
Yeah. So it's going down over what month specifically?
It's gone down since 2020.
Last 7 months.
Can I interject actually really quick? I do have the crime stats for.
That's a good thing. It going down the last 7 months is a good thing, right? Before the National Guard stuff. But okay.
The first half of 2025 for Portland. I'm going to read from my notes if that's okay.
Under Trump.
Okay, cool. Well, he's not the governor, but sure. So kind of. Homicides are down currently in Portland by 51%. Overall violent crime is down by 17%. Aggravated assaults are down by 18%. Robberies are down 10%. Sexual assault reports are down 12%. And shootings are down 31% compared to this time last year. So I think generally to say that Portland.
Why did the color change? Did they? Is there a filter issue going on? The color just they. I don't know, it's just weird.
Currently, right now, is on fire is a gross misinterpretation of what is happening there. In fact, the governor of.
The crazy thing is, Washington, D.C. also had violent crime down, but that doesn't matter to MAGA. They have a different agenda on why they're sending the National Guard. They're not trying to fix the violent rate at all.
Oregon said the exact same thing.
Crime goes up and crime goes down, but a 720 violent crime rate per capita is.
Oh, crime goes up and crime goes down. Yeah, who cares if it's going down? It's not going. Who cares? Like, this is just such a stupid argument. You know what? I am curious. I'll be right back. So, just so we're all on the same page when it comes to a situation like this, and I really don't like to play the blame game because it's so irresponsible, but that's what MAGA tries to do to push their fascist agendas. So when it comes down to the statistics, I just, wanted to make sure I looked it up. I'm using security.org. And in terms of like the cities with the highest violent crime rates, I mean, Portland's not even in the top 10. Just to be very clear about that. And 740 is below like 790. And this is not excusing any of the violent crime rate. I want to be very clear. But this is to note that there are cities that are basically up for grabs when it comes down to, oh yeah, let's put people over there. Let's send the National Guard over there. Basically, everything above 740 or 720, whatever number he said, is okay for the National Guard to send into. That's the precedent we're about to set. Now, this is numbers from 2024, of course. And I do want to say that it is an interesting litmus test to figure out like what is going on in a lot of these areas. For the most part, when I'm seeing this, a lot of it is kind of like a disassociation between like the best ways to govern the people, because a lot of these are happening in Republican states, but more Democratic noted cities. And that disconnect is very interesting to kind of put into place, because you're going to look on here and you're not going to see like New York City, for example. You don't see San Francisco, even though those are applauded as like terribly violent places, even though those are like the two most prominent blue places in America for the most part. And of course, you're not going to see like Republican areas or Republican cities like that, because a lot of the big cities are typically Democrat in general. That's just how the cookie crumbles. People tend to vote Democrat in big cities. But when it comes down to violence in terms of the states, Republican states tend to be extremely violent as well. So again, I don't want to play the blame game, but the precedent that these two idiot MAGA people are trying to set, that, oh, if you have a crime rate like this, the National Guard should be sent in, is fucking moronic. It's a stupid claim to make. But let's continue.
Crazy and insane if you compare it to like most American cities. So it's not necessarily a
No, it's not even top 10.
war zone per se, but it's still a mess.
But most American cities is technically true though. Like, I guess it has a high property crime rate on that website.
It's absolutely horrible.
He called it an insurrection, though. It's not an insurrection.
Is that grounds to send in the National Guard? I mean,
I think so.
policing is local.
But
Why
policing
do you want the
was
federal government to do this?
Sometimes police is not enough. That's
Here,
Actually, in fact, the chief of
have
police.
you seen what happened in Washington?
What are you referring to?
Right. So when Trump, for example, called in the National Guard in Washington, crime went down in every single facet of it.
No, I'm sure crime.
The crime rate for Washington, D.C. was already going down. I mean, do I need to fact check that for you? I feel like I've constantly been proving my sources. That one is just an easy thing to figure out. The crime rate for DC was also going down, just like the crime rate for Portland. A lot of this is recovering crime rate from COVID times, right? I will also say that, of course, crime rate is going to go down when there's like the military marching the street, but that also goes against your freedom, right? Imagine this. If you're in a situation where the military is going and marching the streets, oh, better yet, this is an example that every human being should be able to understand. When it comes down to you being a child, there are circumstances where very, very, very strict parents that are constantly on your ass, checking everything you're going to do. Of course, you're not going to do as much bad stuff, right? Because they are monitoring everything you're doing on your phone. You have a strict limit of what you can do. You have to come right home from school. They monitor who your friends are. You have a strict criteria of how you got to live your life. It's super controlled, but you're not doing anything bad. You're not making bad actions. But is that a life worth living if it's constantly monitored? When it comes to dictator states, I bet the crime rate in North Korea is not that high. I bet I can look it up. We can talk about it. But of course, because if you say anything bad against the government, you're going to get killed. So one of the core principles about America is freedom, right? Rising up against the kings and the queens. Why do Americans want to go back? Well, that's a certain level of privilege and ignorance that they forgot where their roots lie. They forgot what it means to be American. So idiots like, not these two lovely people. Idiots like these two fucking morons live in a state of privilege where they think that King Daddy Trump needs to solve all our issues. So yeah, a military presence constantly in your face, crime is going to go down. Is that a life worth living? You tell me. Do you want to be taken care of? Some people want a benevolent king. You think Donald Trump's going to be your benevolent king? Interesting.
Crime rate per capita is crazy and insane if you compare it to like most American cities. So it's not right. So when Trump, for example, called in the National Guard in Washington, crime went down in every single facet of it.
No, I'm sure crime goes
police
down.
is not enough.
Crime would also go down if everyone had a personalized drone following them. But we have civil liberties in this country, and there's always a give and take between crime and freedom. And sure, you could have martial law, and I'm sure crime would go down, but no one wants that.
There's a difference between civil liberties and anarchism.
The actual chief of police in Portland, Bob Day.
Anarchism is not happening. You live under a rock, you fucking idiots. Are you saying anarchism is just happening? Every state, every city that has a crime rate above 720 is just anarchy. Get the fuck out of your bedroom. Jesus Christ.
Was quoted saying it's not a narrative that's consistent with what's actually happening now.
He also said, and that's wait, you're talking. Who did you say, Bob or no?
Bob did, yeah. The chief of
Okay,
police.
yeah, they were also quoted. I think it's the chief of police. I'm not sure if it's the same guy, but he was saying that they're also resource constrained.
TCG player has everything.
Is that a rebuttal point? Resource constrained means give them more resources, not studying the National Guard. Is that what it means? Oh, I don't have enough resources, so I'm gonna allow you to take over my fucking city. Is that the response? Is that how things work? I don't have enough of what I need, so I need you to take over where I live. Come on, buddy. Think a little bit. Put the brain cells together.
We can get into what the role of federalism and like what the role of federal government is, but when you have these cities, these sanctuary cities, which by the way I don't know why they're called sanctuary cities. When I picture sanctuary, I picture like a peaceful, tranquility, little birds singing and
The sanctuary cities for people, for immigrants, not you, unless you're an immigrant. Are you an immigrant? Are you fucking? These people are so dumb. They're so dumb. What are they?
dancing together. You go to these sanctuary cities. What is it? Open drug markets, fentanyl, like needles on the ground,
Says
human
who?
feces, people
Who
bent
are you
over. Like
talking
it's,
to?
they
Well,
should be
it's
called.
a sanctuary city. It's not a utopia.
Sure, but
So-
it should be called zombie apocalypse like city, or like apocalyptic city, because that's what it looks like. When you look at actually all of these sanctuary policies, they completely do you know what the main the lowest common denominator of sanctuary policy is around the United States? All of these cities, what they have in common is that they have to avoid, or it's a deliberate action to not intervene anything with immigration enforcement.
Not cooperate with federal authorities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you
But that doesn't mean you're not
authoritarian-
policing.
Like
the-
being
No,
appointed.
it actually does. It means
No, it
it's
doesn't.
literally a breeding ground.
Oh my God, these guys are so stupid. They don't even know how. They don't know how anything works. They don't know how anything. I mean, they're not. No, they are stupid, but it's not their fault. They're just ignorant, young individuals who get all their news from Twitter. They get all their news from MAGA Reddit. They're there's really nothing. There's really nothing else to say behind that. Really, not else. Is there anything else interesting to talk about? Because these guys, most political violence perpetuated by the right. All right, let's hear this one. See, maybe we can get a better actual like factual substantive debate going on here. Because I'm here for it. I'm here for the debate, so we can really talk through the issues, not just made up narratives that don't live in reality.
Is perpetrated by the right. You guys want to kick this one off because it feels kind of.
Well, I think we have to
boring
mention
video.
his study. He referenced the ADL and some other study. I think we can all agree that the way that right-wing and left-wing violence is, the methodologies they use is kind of loose. For example, they consider any Antifa violence or anything that's anti-government or anti-authoritarian as being on the right because it's against liberty. There's some really bad methodological issues with the study that's referenced. Adam, is you nodding?
Yeah, I mean, obviously every single study is going to have like slightly different definitions on what cases they're looking at and what qualifies definitionally as being political violence. Is it that you have strong political beliefs and then you do something violent, or you had a actual political motive in what you did?
Yep.
I mean, these are hard conversations to have. Like the most threatening act of political violence this country has faced in recent memory was obviously January 6th in terms of what it represented as a threat to this country. You can look at the 2019 El Paso Walmart shooting. In 2017 and 2018, you had the church shooting and the synagogue shooting, which were done by far-right white supremacists. Now, I will admit that I think the CSIS just said that in 2025 is the first year in the last 30 years that left-wing political violence is more common than right-wing political violence. But in that statement, you're also looking.
I've showed this study before, so I don't think I need to do it now. I think we all know what study he's referring to, and yes, this is the first year that left-wing violence is more than right-wing violence. That is correct, but over the last years, right-wing was much larger than left-wing violence.
The past 30 years, it was actually the other way around. So obviously, I think everyone here would condemn all political violence. I mean, ideally, it's not great, but I think it's important to understand that the right foments this and in a lot of cases actually encourages it and celebrates it.
Sure, I think you can look at and find specific references like January 6th. I mean, sure, there's political violence.
You can find a lot of references of just right-wing violence, to be honest. But I want to be very clear, though. I don't think there's any point in blaming either side for political violence. For the most part, when it comes down to the conversation of who does more political violence or who's responsible, I would use this talking point more as a response to anytime MAGA wants to create a narrative off of lies and propaganda. but I don't feel like it's appropriate to kind of point blame in general. MAGA is always an exceptional case, but generally, when I'm having like a political conversation for someone on the reasonable right, the one that's not brainwashed by MAGA, I don't want to point at them and saying your side is causing violence. I don't think that's productive in a substantive conversation.
Violence in that aspect, but for example, how many billions of dollars worth of damages were caused during January 6th that didn't exist? In reference to, for example, BLM riots, how many people were killed? Over 100 people were killed. Businesses were looted. Basically Minneapolis on fire. Billions of dollars, $2 billion worth of damages. People setting random cars on fires. People looting. I mean, one thing Republicans don't do in a
Was what I call BLM political violence. It's hard to say. It wasn't. A lot of people were just doing stuff. Okay, so one of the big things to kind of consider when it comes down to this conversation is that when it comes down to political violence, there's an intentionality to commit violence for a political agenda. A lot of people during the BLM riots, which unexcusable, I do not endorse it. I was criticizing it while it was happening. A lot of those people were just committing violence during a political protest. So they weren't doing the riots with the intentionality of a political message. Some were, most I would argue weren't. I think most were taking advantage of the circumstance to commit crime. That's what I would say. And just to let you guys know how nuanced I am when it comes to this table, when it comes down to the Rittenhouse situation that took place, I was on the camp that Rittenhouse was doing it for self-defense. So I am not a super pro BLM. They did nothing wrong. That's not me at all.
Get something they really don't like. For example, like Charlie Kirk getting politically assassinated, is they hold vigils. They hold peaceful memorials. What they don't do is they don't riot, loot from stores, and start being uncivil. And it's kind of like something that's innate with the left in general, is that
They do riot. They did January 6th. Do they loot from stores? No. But I think a lot of their violence is more deliberate. They're trying to cause political change. I don't think a lot of the looting from stores is not a fucking political violence. That's just violence. There you have to make a distinction. I think that's what he's about to do.
They have this sense of like being uncivil, like, oh my God, I really didn't get something I politically wanted. Let me go ahead and loot from a small business. Like, are we forgetting? Like, yeah.
Can I follow up on that? And this is from the study he referenced, the CSIS study that they excluded. It says in the exclusion, most Antifa violence, 20 plus attacks of Tesla vehicles and firebombing, the June firebombing of the pro-Israel Solidarity Walk. This is all excluded. This is all obviously left-wing violence. Excluded.
It's not obviously left-wing violence. But because I know how MAGA can be very dishonest, I'm going to go check the study. I'm going to see the reason why they excluded it. I think a lot of that can't be verifiable left-wing violence, but I'm guessing that's their claim, that's why they didn't exclude it. But I know MAGA fills up with narratives, and if I'm wrong, if they said we didn't exclude it for a terrible reason, I'll admit I'm wrong. I'm going to show it on screen. All right, we are back. All right, let's look at what this study says. What is excluded? This analysis excludes a number of incidents that further contribute to the perception of an increase in left-wing violence activity in 2025. Different definitions and coding might legitimately include these, but the explanation below details why they are excluded from this data set. The definition of terrorism used here excludes the series of attacks against Tesla vehicles and facilities. There are more than 20 such incidents in the United States from January to April 2025. Attacks on Tesla in the United States were linked to individuals expressing opposition to CEO Elon Musk's political affiliations, particularly his role and actions in the Trump administration. Although the CSIS study team determined these attacks were incidents of economic vandalism rather than terrorism, many involved substantial property destruction and drew sharp condemnation from the Trump administration and Department of Justice. In some cases, prosecutors have even sought terrorism enhancement in charging decisions. Although excluded from this data set, these highly publicized incidents attracted significant attention and reinforced the perception of escalating left-wing violence in 2025. So the difference is that they didn't consider this terrorism because it's attacks on his like property or his businesses. Well, when we're talking about violence, we're talking about like deadly stuff, I'm guessing. So do I like this explanation? No, I probably would include these. Could role in actions to determine these incidents of economic vandalism rather than terrorism. Is there a distinguishable difference? Economic vandalism. Economic vandalism. Economic vandalism. All right. Term economic vandalism encapsulates the deliberate or systematic actions by powerful entities that undermine the economic stability development of weaker nations. Okay, so overall, when it comes down to this, I would say this is worth including. I think there is an association. I can understand the distinction that they're making. They're not so. All right, so this is my understanding, right? Them destroying his vehicles is here to impact his economic status. That is the reason why they're doing it. There's no political message that they're trying to advocate for. They are really just trying to ruin his pockets, ruin his business. So that you can consider that different. If we're having a more nuanced and generalized conversation, I would still find them under the same umbrella, but like in a very distinct definition, they're similar. There were 3 high-profile terrorist attacks in the United States in the first half of 2025, motivated by the conflict between Israel and Palestine. These include the April arson attack on Pennsylvania, Governor Josh Shapiro's residence, a May shooting that killed 2 Israeli embassy staff in D.C., and June firebombing of the pro-Israel Solidarity Walk in Boulder. Yeah, this was disgusting when this happened. I completely condemn this. 115 demonstrators, and these attacks are classified as ethno-national incidents rather than left-wing ones. I agree to this. I don't think just because there's a lot of pro-Palestine people on the left, I don't think you can make the case that this is a left-wing violence just because of that. There's a lot of people who are anti-Israel on the right, like very, very anti-Israel on the right. So I don't think you can make that. I think these are people that were like extremists from a Palestinian Hamas perspective and very anti-Israel. I don't think this is something you can attribute to the left at all. I think it would be way too loose to make that type of claim. However, it's noteworthy. I'll just keep reading. That all 3 incidents involved attackers motivated by opposition to Israel's actions in Gaza or used support for Israel, a political position traditionally associated with the left-wing politics in the United States. Like traditionally association, I understand, but it can't be. It's not deliberate. You can't deliberately say just because it's a anti-Israel attack that it's left-wing, because there's a lot of anti-Israel sentiment on the right. It would be the same thing if it was like pro-Israel attacks on like a Palestinian in America. I would not say that's a right-wing thing, even though they mostly support Israel. Or it's like pro-Russia, because like MAGA is becoming very pro-Russia recently. A pro-Russian attack on a Ukrainian, I wouldn't say that's right-wing either. I just don't think it's I don't think it's a strong enough correlation. Demonstrations against immigration and customs enforcement activity across the United States in 2025 also resulted in many violent encounters, namely between law enforcement and demonstrators. However, most of these incidents did not reach a level of violence that satisfied the study's definition of terrorism, which is correct. Like for the most part, they get a little rowdy, but it was never. There's no real proof of any of them getting violent. So the reason why they left this out, one, you can't make the association that this was left-wing violence regarding the Israel-Palestine stuff. That would be very lazy. The ICE stuff never reached the levels of violence, and this is not really considered terroristic violence, but economic vandalism, which are 2 different in a very strict definition debate and a very nuanced conversation. They're in similar boats under the same umbrella. So that's why they left all those out. All right, let's continue.
Excluded. The the BLM riots were excluded. Many violent encounters on ICE agents were excluded. This is according.
The study never said anything about BLM riots. I literally read it all to you. I don't know what he's talking about in terms of BLM riots. I literally read the appendix of what is excluded. So he made the BLM riot stuff all up. MAGA just needs to stop lying. Just stop lying. Just stop. I just read the whole thing. It doesn't say BLM riots. Just stop lying.
To their section, it's in the appendix. And like I said, anything
It doesn't say BLM riots. He's a fucking liar.
with racial supremacy, anti-government tyranny, anti-abortion, for example, if there's an attack on an abortion clinic, that's automatically labeled as right-wing.
Well,
Which, like,
I
don't know.
But they
Choice people are like,
fair enough. But the point is
Hey, come
that
on,
they
man.
consider anything that's culturally conservative as right-wing.
well, yes.
Yes, if something's right wing, it's right wing. Those had very different explanations on why they were excluded. I get it. You got to make the brain cells got to connect a little bit. Got to connect a little bit. You got to read the reasoning. It's not hard, buddy.
Again,
But
let's
that's
talk
not
about-
that's
They
not always
consider
the
anything
case.
that's right.
Hold on, but
wing
that's
as right-wing.
anti-government.
I don't get it, man.
Then all of violence is right-wing, like anti-government tyranny.
But something that
it's
is
all
culturally
just
conservative, that's a synonym for right wing.
if you're qualifying Antifa and anti-government tyranny, like unplanned riots,
but like-
as right-wing, do you not realize that there's like a
No, but like
huge
Marxism
issue?
is like anti, capitalism, anti-U.S. government, but we would consider it left wing, right?
That's my point.
Okay.
They don't in
Exactly.
the study. That's exactly my point.
Sure.
That didn't say anything about Antifa here. Am I tripping? I literally read the appendix. It didn't say Antifa. It didn't say BLM riots. It didn't say Antifa. I don't know what he's reading. I really don't. Maybe if I read the more long-term version of the study, is there like a longer version of the study that I didn't see? I don't really know. No, I'm just gonna assume he's making it up. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't read the
But
study.
saying that
Yeah.
something that is
So-
socially conservative should not be considered right wing.
Well,
that's a little
it
silly.
depends.
I think
I just named 3 things that are socially conservative that you would attribute to the left. Or sorry, that is
You mean like
that-
anti-government?
No, sorry, that the study considered socially conservative. Like the study considers any anti-government tyranny as right-wing.
Sure, so there's
people-
possible for left-wing
That's my
anti-government
point.
violence to
Yeah,
exist.
that's my
That's
point.
fine, yeah, and that's why I prefaced by saying that every study is going to use different definitions and the methodology is going to change.
Yeah.
From my understanding, the overwhelming bulk of the studies do show that a lot of the violence in this country that's political is like white nationalists on the right. Is that
exists.
the average Republican? Hopefully not, maybe not. But like when we're talking about political violence in this country, you said, oh, the left, they're just inherently pro-violence. I think they can do this. Was it the left that made jokes about Paul Pelosi's head being bludgeoned with a hammer? Is Charlie Kirk a leftist when he said that Joe Biden should get the death penalty? Or the
Sure, that's one. That's not political violence because that's in reference to him being sentenced after a trial. But there's a distinction between political violence is not somebody. Yeah, political violence is not somebody.
Well, it's inflaming political rhetoric. It's a political rhetoric that can attribute to a growing sentiment of division, and that could lead to potential political violence, right? Words can lead to violence. We understand that. Brain cells, come on. Just got to work together, buddy. Just got to work together. I know some of those brain cells, evaporate into that fro, but, get some oil and make sure you trap them in that brain of yours. You got it, buddy. You can do it. I believe in you.
Who was tyrannical. I'm not even saying Joe Biden was. I'm saying anybody who is like a traitor to the country, anybody who is caught to have done espionage, who gets convicted, who gets that
Paul
kind of thing.
Pelosi
That
did
is who-
espionage?
I'm not talking about that specifically. I'm saying in general. Now,
I'm no longer interested in watching the rest of it. Do they have any other? Donald Trump's Gaza ceasefire plan is genuine path towards ending the war, not just a political stand. I mean, we already see that Israel has been very unhinged since it, so that's not true. That's all I got. I think an hour video is good enough. You guys can watch the full thing if you want yourself. Let's look at the comments. They're always fun to read, right? You cannot have a discussion with people who deny reality. Can we put 1,000% tariff on podcast equipment? Nobody. Jubilee, let's debate something we already have a factual, empirical, correct answer for. This conversation isn't going to go anywhere and people can't even agree on the facts. Another video, another time to force myself to get rage baited. For people who are so upset about Jubilee, then why do you keep watching the videos? Why do I let Jubilee profit from me smashing my head against the wall? Bro claims whataboutism, then proceeds to say, what about Biden? Americans get rage baited, Europeans get a comedy show. He keeps saying a causal link was found. This is incorrect. It's a low level correlation, very different. Yeah, it's such a I don't know how I have no idea how they made that debate until like 20 minutes. I really just don't get it. It wasn't a coup attempt because they failed, brother. What is the word? What does the temp mean, man? What does the temp mean? Those should be reality versus fiction, political discussion. Cook. Anyone else tired of Jubilee bringing the same 10 people to argue different points? I mean, I think they just pick people that's in the California area because they're in California. If I lived in California, you'd see my face all the time. I want to be on. I don't actually. Why did I say that? I think it'd be cool to be on Jubilee. I don't necessarily want to be on Jubilee. Like, this is not something I'm craving for. I think it'd just be an interesting opportunity. Dude continues to bring up Biden got to be one of the saddest displays of debating. Black guy talking pro-apartheid is wild. Oh, easy pro-Israel. Love how I get 4 minutes and 15 seconds into the video and I still have to watch 6 separate ads. Thanks, YouTube. Right? YouTube ads are getting ridiculous. Can we all agree there, regardless of political affiliation? Can we all agree that YouTube ads are getting like insanely ridiculous? It's just not fun anymore. The highest violent crime city in the U.S. is Memphis, Tennessee, not Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon is 57th in the U.S. cities. Yeah, that guy was just yapping about oh yeah, Portland is super violent. Like, he was just fucking yapping. He was yapping. He had no idea what the fuck he was talking about. He basically saw a fucking article and then was like, MAGA, my Lord and Savior, my white savior. Can you? Oh, can I do the voice? Hold on. Cut. Hold on. Do the white savior. Oh, Mr. Daddy Donald. Oh man, I'm trying to figure out. I feel like it's more like a little bit more deep, but still raspy. Like Donald J. Trump. It's not there. It's not there. I have to work on it, and it actually just irritates my voice. Not gonna lie. But he wants Donald Trump to be his white savior. You know. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like and subscribe. Help me get to 800 subs. You have a good one. Take care. Peace.